FNAF 4's nightmare animatronics are something else. Being the scariest versions of the animatronics, to me at least, was already a feat, especially after the disappointment the community had in FNAF 3. But sometimes being the scariest still isn't enough. It's definitely the case with this community anyway. So the fans took to DeviantArt and amino apps to create even more unholy monstrosities of probably the scariest nightmare animatronic, Fredbear. And those versions that we missed are what we're exploring today. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm Connor Monroe and this is the Top 10 Scary FNAF alternate fan versions of Fredbear Part 2. Be sure you stick around until the end for this one because holy living hell, it's actually terrifying. Okay, let's do it. In at 10, Human Nightmare Fredbear. Human versions of animatronics always set me on edge. I always get worried whenever I type this in because of what I've seen. I'm gonna start getting weird ads, which is why I always look these up using the Top 10 Gaming account. I've seen some scary man. Reddit can be a scary place. Aside from all the horrific things I've seen, Human Nightmare Fredbear is very Joker-esque in design. Some versions have the character more focused on that nightmare aesthetic, while some are more focused on the human normal Fredbear. But no matter what, it's always unsettling. Just human versions of animatronics are creepy. And based on the fact that this could in theory be possible in the FNAF universe, which you know if you watched the last video or any video where I mentioned this, but the idea that this could actually exist just sets me on edge and gives me trust issues. Whenever someone starts acting differently around me, I always get worried that they're an animatronic. And at 9, Fredbear. Fredbear is an animatronic coming from the Day Shift at Freddy series, who was created by Dave by modifying a Fredbear suit. The character appears in Day Shift at Freddy's 1, 2, and 3, and Fredbear's appearance is obviously similar to Fredbear, albeit wider. He is a golden colored bear animatronic wearing a purple top hat and bow tie with 2 black and white buttons on his chest. He has gray, metallic looking eyes, thicker arms and legs, a squarish brown nose, some smaller pupils, small white teeth, round ears with the inside color in lighter shades, and a very circular shaped stomach with brownish shades kind of all strewn throughout. He has rips around his feet joints and arms. Fredbear also appears for real when Dave modifies an empty Fredbear suit and unleashes it during the Sting operation on Friday, in which, depending on which route you took earlier, it either attempts to kill Jack, dies, or just destroys the pizza joint and sets itself on fire. Love that. And at 8, Bearlock. Bearlock is similar to Fred Trap from the last part. In essence, it's just a FNAF what if where William was using the Spring Freddy suit to kill instead of the Spring Bonnie suit. The same ideas that were applied to Spring Trap in this case are just applied to Bearlock. And thank you for the comments who suggested this animatronic in the last part. Those were really useful in making this list. And that's not the only one that was suggested, and those comments are the reason why this list was possible. Bearlock was withered due to age and I'm guessing flesh because, it was combined into the suit. So there are exposed sections of flesh and muscle, just a lot of gore, with some versions having more exposed than others. But they all have good old Willie A inside, constantly screaming in pain, because that's what he deserves. These versions, however, I feel are more gruesome than Springtrap, but probably because we don't have a limit on how far we'll take these characters, but Scott probably wanted to make it still at least somewhat family or kid friendly. It's like how speedsters with no morals don't have a limit on their speed, or what they'll do. Because, Flash season finale, because people still watch that show. They had a lightsaber duel. I'm mad about that. They made lightning lightsabers.
But it wasn't cool?
It was cool. It was cool, but it made me upset. And at 7, Withered Nightmare. Oh, now there aren't many versions of Withered Nightmare, mostly because it's such an obscure thing to search. I'm honestly surprised that there was even a couple of these. Yet somehow Withered Nightmare makes Nightmare even scarier, with missing exosuit, I guess, and the slightly transparent nature of the animatronic, plus the exposed bits and missing limbs. It always makes these characters more unsettling. But throw that onto Nightmare, the scariest animatronic in the series, and I don't want to sleep tonight. Especially with the exposed brain and just, oh man, I don't like this. Let's move on. And at 6, Dark Nightmare Fredbear. Dark Nightmare Fredbear is an interesting character, since they aren't meant to be a shadow animatronic, like Shadow Fredbear from the last part was, but they're a purple version of the animatronic with additional withering and just a more horrific appearance. Some look like they would be Shadow Nightmare Fredbear, but Dark Nightmare Freddy is such a badass name that I love it. With glowing eyes and teeth and the nightmare aesthetic being cranked up to 11, this guy is surely going to haunt my dreams even more than FNAF already does. I'm not kidding. Last time I mentioned a dream dream where I was on a date and then I was part animatronic. This time, I had another dream that FNAF worked its way into. I'm not even kidding. I literally had a dream that I joined the Yogscast. I've been dreaming a lot about that lately, but this time, while I was there, I still couldn't get away from FNAF. My TTT skin was Toy Chica. During the Jingle Jam, they made me play Five Nights VR. They even recreated a FNAF scene with a skit where the purple guy wasn't William Afton, but instead, the Bristol Pusher. If you know the Yogscast, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, FNAF has invaded every aspect of my life. But honestly, I'd still be down if that's what they were gonna have me do. Yogscast, hit me up. I can do both, right? Halfway through into number 5, Stylized Nightmare Fredbear. There are so many different versions of Stylized Nightmare Fredbear, I love it. I'm pretty sure stylized just means converting the character into your style, which makes the variety incredible to look at. From more cartoony but still horrific versions to a Frankenstein's monster looking version that will actually haunt me for the rest of my life. Like, if this is what the Halloween DLC was instead of Dreadbear, I don't think I'd be as into that DLC as I am. Some of these teeth are absolute monsters within themselves. Some looking like monster animatronics from Five Nights at Candy's, some looking like it's going to crawl out of my screen just so it can kill me. Nightmare Fredbear is one of the scariest animatronics to me, and I honestly think that if I ever had to play that level in FNAF VR, I would piss myself. Like, not even joking. Like, that's why I don't play FNAF VR. So I don't have to deal with that level and that level only. I also think that I'd be trash at the plush baby game, and I don't like being jump scared. It's horrible. Why do people like it? Fear is a bad thing. I'm gonna be questioning this for the rest of my life. And at 4, Twisted Nightmare. The Twisted animatronics are probably the most horrific animatronics ever described. These buggers are disgusting and horrific and are only approachable when using an illusion disc to make themselves look presentable. Combine that with Nightmare, who is already the scariest animatronic from the games, and oh my lord, you have one hell of a beast. And before you get mad at me, Nightmare is literally just a color scheme flipped version of Fredbear. So don't say it's a different animatronic, okay? It's not. It's the same thing, just with different colors, alright? Twisted Nightmare, though, is everything you want to avoid when creating something for kids. I can hardly put it into words, honestly. Like, I'm glad that there's pictures that can be shown, because I honestly don't know how to go about describing this. If the gates of hell had opened and released the entirety of the FNAF lore into real life, and then the Joy of Creation animatronics emerged, including not just the ones that were in the game, but literally every animatronic from the series in an ignited form, and then they all merged and then they became twisted. This is how this demonic monstrosity would have been created. It's wrong, I feel deceived, and I feel physically hurt by this. And at 3, Paranormal Fredbear. Paranormal Fredbear was not what I first anticipated. I thought it was going to be closer to Nightmare, with a translucent body and a more wisp mother-like appearance, but instead Paranormal Fredbear by Torres 4 on DeviantArt is terrifying. In essence, a Reaper Fredbear. This paranormal version is how I feel like a Reaper Fredbear would look like in the Final Night series, with endoskeleton bits holding together a melted and tearing face, and not only the face but the body as well, and the movement's just jerky enough to make you question it, but also just make you really unsettled. The long, sharp claws can easily cut through flesh, and the teeth, while not being sharp, will still set you on edge. They're nearly human, but not quite, making it horrifying to say the least. If they're actually human, that's horrifying for an entirely different reason, but this, it does it in the right way. Not to mention the paranormal spring trap that he made. Like, I may have to save that for another list, because oh boy. And at 2, Withered Nightmare Fredbear. I'm honestly surprised that I didn't include this in the last part. I actually had to triple check to make sure that I didn't. Withered Nightmare Fredbear is one of the most horrific versions of Fredbear that I've seen. The animatronic already looks pretty withered, but take away the limits of the nightmare aesthetic, and boom, you have yourself some additional nightmare fuel, ironically. The one version even fixed the character, but still managed to make them look even more horrifying than the original. With an extended jaw, or even missing chunks of its body entirely, Withered Nightmare Fredbear makes me glad FNAF VR doesn't have mods other than the full bright mode, I think. I wonder how easy a full bright mode playthrough of the game would be. Like, yeah, it wouldn't be scary since the whole scary part of the game is the unknown, but I'm fairly certain that would make the game crazy easy. Like, maybe it's how I should play it if I ever end up doing it. Should I do a full bright mode playthrough? Yes? No? You're all sadistic, so you're definitely saying no. I don't even know why I asked. Finally, in at number 1, Hellmare. This was another animatronic that was recommended to me in the comments of the last part. The Hellmare version of Nightmare Fredbear is probably the absolute single most horrific FNAF oriented thing I have ever seen. Like, I'm gonna have to make a whole list about the Hellmare animatronics because this is the absolute craziest that I've ever seen. Like, how did I not know about these before? Hellmare Fredbear can only be described as a true nightmarish abomination from hell. The name is accurate. This thing has not 1, not 2, but 3 separate mouths. 2 heads, but not only does it have 2 heads, but those heads are reversed from one another. So like one head is on top, and then another one is on the bottom turned upside down so it can spin its head 180 degrees and give you either Nightmare or Nightmare Fredbear. Yeah, this dude is both animatronics combined. And I didn't even see that at first. Once I noticed it, I'll admit I might have peed my pants a little, okay? No shame. It was horrifying. 2 heads, 2 sets of 4-fingered hands, it's like this, right? Like, it has 4 fingers and they're like attached together like this. Like half of these parts are also Nightmare and not Nightmare Fredbear. Look, usually I'm not scared when I talk about these things. Like I play it up for camera and for entertainment. I'm not playing this up. This is probably going to actually give me nightmares. The earliest one that I could see was from Molten 500 on DeviantArt, but I could be wrong. But like if I'm not, make it stop. You need help. I will help you personally. Please. There we have it, friends, the top 10 scary FNAF alternate fan versions of Fredbear Part 2. I'm not even gonna ask which version was the scariest to you because it was Hellmare. I don't care what you say, you're wrong if you don't think it's Hellmare. But what animatronic should we make a fan versions list for next? Be sure you let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. Maybe.